My name is Sebastian, this is Studio Legenda. Over the past month or so I've gotten a few donations, as well as a few orders. I'm still working on how to run this channel in a way that works for me and keeps it fun. But mail is always fun. So let's open our metaphorical mailbag and see what we got. Here's something I ordered online. 2 tiny atlases, the Wereldboskabouter and the Junior Boskabouter from 2009 and 2010 respectively. I already own one of them from 1995. These tiny atlases were published with anniversary editions of the Bos Atlas. I know there are 1 or 2 more, the oldest being from the late 70s or early 80s, depending on, I think, which print run you get. And they are pretty hard to find. Now, I'd love to do a video about these tiny editions of these beautiful Bos Atlases along with the big versions that they came with. The Bos Atlas itself is a staple if you are in the Netherlands. They are fantastic atlases, very well designed, and they really deserve a video of their own. And now this rather beautifully stamped envelope from France. I'm going to keep this, I think. Inside, carefully ripped up, was this. A Michelin Map of Belgium from 1953 that I was missing. I now have all 4 of this period of Belgium itself. And the reason this particular version of the map is interesting is because it largely displays the south of the Netherlands, as well as a slither of the north of Belgium. It's a wonderful map, as are all Michelin maps, as you'll see later on. Thank you, Eric, for donating this, and the beautiful postage all the way from France. Doing a video on Michelin Maps is a long-term goal, though. Now, this was an anonymous donation. I didn't know what was in the package as I opened it, so extra care was taken. Turns out there are a few very interesting maps. An old Sleeswijk map, of which I now own a couple. These fascinate me for all kinds of anachronisms, but that's another video, I guess. And this is the oldest Cito map, a city map that I've ever seen. These are also, I think, a Dutch brand of city maps. And I never knew that these maps were this old, this brand was this old. And this particular one is almost plastic-like, so it's very well preserved. So this really needs more digging, along with a couple of other very well preserved maps and flyers with maps in them. So thank you very much for your donation, Anonymous. I know who you are, you know who you are, and I'm sure we'll see these maps again. You can probably tell by the tape where this came from. This quite heavy package I ordered from the United States, which is not something I do often. However, this particular item is something that I'm researching at the moment. This is the Rand McNally International Atlas, or the International Atlas. This book is an absolute tome, an international effort to make the new standard in atlas design, as it says on the flaps as well. Now, I own a Dutch atlas, which is the Spectrum Wereldatlas, I think, and it was based on this very atlas, this McNally version. Now, that atlas, the Dutch version, was quite different. It had much more illustration work, but the idea was basically to create a new standard for international atlas design. And these atlases were created by an international team of cartographers. So I'd love to dig out this story and find out more about this, because this was already over 50 years ago. The Rand McNally took 10 years to make, and it was published in 1969, so you can kind of gather that this is kind of old already. So I'd love to know more from maybe Rand McNally themselves, or maybe somebody from a museum or an archive knows more about this project. Get in touch, because I really want to make a good video about that. Sometimes you come across a lot, in this case on a Dutch online marketplace, and it said the word 24 maps in them. It was a bit vague what was inside, but I just decided to purchase them all. I knew there was one couple of maps in there that looked interesting, which is a small folder with 2 bicycle maps. And these bicycle maps have tourist routes in the Netherlands with descriptions on the back. And I do plan to investigate basically cycling maps, because they are a phenomenon here in the Netherlands because of our cycling culture. And I was wondering, what else can I find? Because I also have some stuff in the archives focused on cycling and tourists. Tourism. Cycling tourists. Yeah, basically. So along with that and an Italian one that was nice. The rest is, yeah, okay. Not very interesting, but sometimes, sometimes you strike gold, sometimes you're less lucky. Another package that arrived last October, or this October, was a bunch of Michelin maps that I ordered from eBay from Germany. And I accidentally opened this one earlier without filming. So, well, you'll have to do without that. Apologies. One of which, amongst these maps, was very old and very fragile. It's incomplete even. It was even missing entire pieces. But it came with a second one, basically the same map, this time on a cloth background. Now, both are missing their covers, but with Michelin maps, often they have an identifier in the top left corner of the map. And because of the era this map was published in, it actually provides a lot of information. So this tells us that this map was from 1926, and there were 48,000 printed of this very map. This was the second edition, published in February. So that's a lot of information. And the detail on these maps is just legendary, chock full of information. And just look at this river, it's beautifully illustrated. I'd love to dive into these Michelin maps more. And even earlier this month, or perhaps even back in September, I also received a big donation from Tim. Thank you very much, Tim. This included various maps, and it was, I think, a big box of maps actually, including more Michelin maps, but also many interesting Dutch maps. And I wasn't filming my mail yet back then, so sorry about not really having any opening footage again. But I'm still finding my feet with this, so bear with me. All maps sent to me get a loving home and are cataloged, which is a slow process, but still I want to know what I have. So check the description for instructions on how to donate if you'd like to. Now, all of these maps that Tim sent me, there are some very interesting maps in there, and I really like some of these maps. But there's just so much stuff in here that's just great. Thank you very much for that donation, Tim. There is plenty of material here for new Cardophile episodes, plenty of material for longer documentary-style episodes that I want to make. I'm still getting the hang of this, and it's really an adventure to try and build this YouTube channel. Your support really does mean a lot to me, and I'm going to try and answer everybody personally. So thank you very much for watching and staying with this video for as long as you have. Subscribe, like, and comment if you have something constructive to say. You can also support Studio Legenda through Patreon, or if you're in the Netherlands, through the Studio Legenda web shop. I'm planning on adding international shipping, but that will be later this year, or 2021 probably. Anyway, thank you very much. Until next time.